June 21st. Picture lovers know it as National Selfie Day. Marvel fans know it as Chris Pratt's birthday. Others know it as the summer solstice, aka the longest day of the year. Well, it was the longest day of the year, but not because it was the summer solstice. It was the day that changed the entire course of my life. Through a series of events, June 21st was the start of my journey to becoming a published author. It changed my life forever. Now, many of us in this room love to read, but today I'm going to open your eyes to the life of a writer. So, June 21st, 2015, as I'm driving home, I run over a nail in the road. But this isn't just any ordinary nail. This is the most expensive nail I am ever going to pay for. I paid $250 for a repair that was only supposed to cost me $50 because I filled out the maintenance form incorrectly. Now, let me ask you all something. What would you do if I came around right now and handed each of you $200? How would you spend that money? Some of you might finally try that new restaurant you've always wanted to go to. Some of you might finally get that new outfit you've been eyeing at the mall for a minute. And some of you might finally take that well-deserved vacation and go to the beach. Well, I spent my money plugging my tire. And that's when I knew I needed to change. After a conversation with my father about why it cost so much, his question to me was, "Jonathan, why did you pay that much just to get a tire plugged?" I said, "That's what I put on the maintenance form. I didn't know any better." He said, "So why didn't you call anyone and ask for help?" At the time, I'm 24 years old. I said, "Dad, I'm a grown man. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing." He said, "Well, apparently you don't." And that's when it hit me. What if there are other guys out there who also kind of see life the same way? Even though they feel they can do it, they still have these challenges, and they need a support system. So that situation inspired me to create a list of life lessons and life skills that I could pass along to other guys so no one would ever pay too much for a car repair or have any other situation again. And after months of writing in hotel rooms, bathrooms, gas stations, and even the back of my own car, Master of Ceremonies, A Male's Guide for a Successful Life, was published. Now, I figured after publishing my first book, things would get easier for me, right? I'm thinking people would just find the book online, order it, read it, love it, and leave me a 5-star review on Amazon. But is anything ever that simple? Although being an author has opened a lot of doors for me, it has slammed the door in my face a couple times too. But first, I need to take you to the summer of 2017. I'm still a relatively new author, and I get this opportunity to appear on a radio show in Philadelphia. I get to the radio station, I knock on the door, no one ever answers the door. I'm calling, emailing, DMing on Instagram, doing everything I can do to figure out what is going on. Never get a response. For over an hour, I am outside waiting. Did I mention it was raining that night too, while I waited? Being an author definitely helps you develop some tough skin. However, those slammed doors were not in vain. Psychologist Angela Duckworth, who is also a TED speaker, talked about how grit is the biggest indicator of success. Grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals despite the success and the challenges that you may face. I knew at that point that writing a book wasn't just going to test my writing skills. It was going to test my willpower, my creativity, but most importantly, it was going to test my character. Throughout the course of my life, I met about 100 people who actually wanted to become published authors themselves. However, I only know 20 people who have published books. And as I went through the journey of becoming an author myself, I understood why that number was so low. Writing is truly one of the most grueling counseling sessions that you will ever go through in life because it forces you to relive it. Writing takes you to the epicenter of some of your biggest life's challenges, and it makes you address them. So as I was working on my first book, which was a self-help book, I was forced to relive the intimate details of a childhood friendship of 15 years that came to an end. as well as 2 childhood traumas, one of which almost got me killed. Even though it was very hard to have to relive those details and talk about it, after the book was published, I had several people coming up to me to tell me how specific chapters in certain situations not only really helped them get through, but most importantly, made them want to live a better quality life too. So I knew it was all worth it. Being an author definitely helps you grow and heal so that you can become a helpful person to others. Now, it's one thing to be hungry, but it's another to figure out what you want to eat, drive to the store, shop for those ingredients, and then turn around, go home, and cook everything. When you think about it like this, you see why most people just order pizza for delivery and get back to watching their Netflix, right? So, welcome to the life of outlining your book. Anytime you decide that you're going to write a book, there is a lot of researching and planning that goes into that process. So on top of all of that planning, you can imagine how writing the manuscript would be extremely taxing. However, from that experience, you learn how to set goals. You learn how to finish what you start. I know for me, as I was working on my book, I had the goal to complete 1 chapter a day. Now, most days I met that goal. Other times, it took me over a week to develop what it is that I wanted to say. But regardless of the length of time, being an author helped me learn how to become more accountable for myself so I could finish these journeys that I wanted in life. So, I need everyone to close their eyes for a quick moment. Let's fast forward to Thanksgiving, and let's say this is your first Thanksgiving dinner that you've cooked. All your friends and family are at the house, and you are so excited for them to try your cooking. Except, there's one problem. As you're ready to dig in, someone brings it to your attention that your turkey actually needs to go back into the oven because it's undercooked, and your mac and cheese isn't quite cheesy enough. Now, welcome to the world of editing your books. You can open your eyes. Editing is by far the most grueling process in the publishing journey altogether. That is the single most feat which crushes most aspiring writers. Because as writers, we are extremely sensitive about our work. So imagine getting this big document back of everything you need to fix when you already wrapped it in your head that you were done. Now, I knew that when I was working on my first book, that people would say, Jonathan, you spelled this wrong, you spelled that wrong, you missed the comma here. I expected that. However, I was told by my editors that entire paragraphs had to go. Not sentences, paragraphs. You can imagine the jab in your gut hearing that things you stayed up till 3 a.m. working on got to come back out of that book. But from that experience, I learned that criticism is a way to help make us better, not a way to keep us down. So at this point, you've decided on your idea, you've written your book, had it edited, you know what your cover looks like, and you have your book published. Congratulations. The hard part's behind you, right? Guess again. So now that your book is published, authors must step away from the computers and now step into the limelight to begin marketing their book. Now, the interesting thing about authors is that we obviously have a story that we want to tell, which is why we wrote books. However, those stories do not translate always to the world of business. So let me give you an example. Just because someone loves to cook does not mean they want your cookbook that you wrote. So whether you like it or you don't, being an author is going to force you to become a better entrepreneur. But surprise, surprise, after releasing this book and starting this new business, there was a magical T word waiting for me around the corner. And do y'all know what that T word was? You got it? Taxes. So for the first time in my life, my income was no longer just based on a 9-to-5 job before. So our good friend Uncle Sam wanted to spend a little bit more time with me. No thanks, Uncle Sam. I have enough uncles, so I'm okay. But that's not quite how that worked. You see, for every book that I sold, Uncle Sam was high-fiving me with his left hand while sticking his right hand out for his cut. And that's when reality set in. Whoa, Jonathan, you didn't just release a book. You released an entire business. So at this point, 25-year-old me is getting this crash course to things like accounting, legal affairs, graphic design, and marketing. I'm up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning reading articles and watching videos on how to successfully run a business and do all of these things I need to do. And the irony of it all is I didn't even mean to open a business. I just wanted to help some guys out, give them some helpful tips, and send them on their way. So I think next time I get any bright ideas, I think I'm just going to write the advice out on a Post-it note and just pass it out to random people. But in all seriousness, being an author has definitely helped me become a better professional at my full-time job. I've learned how to master the art of follow-through, being more mindful of my word choice, and most importantly, being creative whenever resources are challenged. Many authors still work full-time jobs like myself, so with the newfound skills that we've developed from writing books, authors are able to contribute wonders to many of our complex's office challenges. Now, I know what being an author did for me, but one of the big things that it did was gave me a sense of belonging. Raise your hand if you've ever received an opportunity before that you felt belonged to someone else more deserving. I know I have. You, my friend, may have what psychologists call imposter syndrome. But something different happened. After I wrote my book, anytime I received an opportunity, it was no longer this sense of guilt, but instead, it was a sense of obligation. It was unlike any feeling I'd ever felt before. It was like I was sent to change someone's life anytime I had a speaking opportunity or a book signing. In my time as an author, I've gotten to meet people who wanted to publish books on being an immigrant in the United States and how that transition was for them. I've met people who wanted to write books on the difficult decision of having to put a parent in a nursing home and how hard that was for the entire family for that transition. And I've got to meet people who wanted to write books on their struggles with mental health, which is a major issue and something that we're working through every single day. But regardless of what those stories were about, being an author made me a safe space for somebody who was finally ready to talk about it. No longer was I asking, why me? I now ask, why not me? So I was curious how writing books affected other authors, so I decided to do a little bit of research. I talked to a couple authors that I knew and some that I recently met on my journeys, and I learned a couple interesting things. The first is that most of us wrote books because we felt something was missing from society. One of my friends from college, Terrence, who published his book, wrote it because he felt that the world needed more African American stars in the world of fiction and fantasy. Something interesting that really connected all of us, though, was probably the biggest lesson in this whole study, which was writing a book wasn't about the money that we were planning to make or the opportunities that we were going to get. Writing a book connected all of us as authors because it pushed us out of our comfort zones. You see, it forces you to work on skills you don't really get to work on all too often. And as I mentioned before, some of us get exposed to skills we never even had before. One of my friends, Damien, wrote his book, and he talked about his fear of even releasing it because of the fact that he didn't go through a traditional publishing route. One of my friends from high school, Angelica, who wrote her book, talked about how it took her an entire year to even release it because she was afraid that no one would even like it. So this experience really helped us all grow up and realize that what it is that we needed to share was more important than our own personal doubts. But we realized that the world needed this, so we went ahead and tried. But something interesting happened even beyond just what connected us. I talked a lot today about some of the challenges and hardships that we face as authors, but a lot of really good things have happened from it too. The first is that I got to join a new community. I got to make new friends who like to write just like I do. I've been featured in magazines, commercials. I've won awards, and I even have the opportunity to be in front of you today, all because I published a book. Growing up, I never watched my father read a book. So to hear him say that he read my book from cover to cover and that he loved it meant everything to me. I got to watch my 3-year-old nephew stand beside me as I autographed books at my very first book signing. In fact, my first book signing, as well as many of my family and friends, was my own. I had never been to a book signing a day in my life. So that was a new door that was open for my entire village, something we got to experience together and a moment I will cherish for a lifetime. But of all the lessons that being an author taught me, it taught me everything I needed to do better. Being an author gave me the strength to finally leave a toxic friendship of 15 years. It gave me the strength to get reconnected with my faith and pray every single night. And being an author gave me the strength to finally start working on my health and lose 70 pounds in 6 months. But I've never felt a force anything like being an author before. It's like having this title and having this job pushes me to do things that I never would have done had I not written this book. So with that being said, I encourage all of you to share your own creative idea. The world doesn't just need you to make your idea. The world needs you to share it. As I leave you, there's a quote that says, "Be who you needed when you were younger." Well, today we're going to put a new spin on that. I don't need you to just be who you needed. I need you to write what it is that you needed to read when you were younger. The world is waiting for you to release your future book. Thank you.